Hey guys, it's Erin. Happily we go here. I hope you're having an awesome Sunday. So we're just going to jump right into the Inspiby challenge. This is week 26. That was featuring Helen Allen, and I will link her original video down below. You can also check out all the information over on my Instagram, Happily We Go. So we're going to start off by throwing down some matte medium, and then we're going to take deli paper. Easy peasy. Make sure that you have the shiny side down. We want the dull side up. And then I'm just going to kind of take this little tool here and slice down the middle so we don't have to worry about the paper folding when you fold the book. And I want those wrinkles. You see those wrinkles? Normally I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's so wrinkly, but I want the wrinkles because it's going to create texture. Then we're going to take the matte medium and go over the top of that as well. Got to get a little more on my brush there. And then we're going to dry it up. After it's dry, I'm just going to rip along the edges. I'm going to use my finger. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you want a super clean line, you can use the scissors. But for now, we're just going to rock pulling it. Okay, we're going to throw on some of the Distress paint daubers, or the Distress paints, Tim Holtz, and I'm going to put all of the colors and everything I use down in the description box below, but I have the Ranger paint dauber and then also the Distress paints. We're going to throw on a couple different colors of the blue. I want to concentrate the darker colors on the outside and then bring the lighter colors towards the inside. Then I'm just going to grab a brush and make a big old mess. And that's all good because that's kind of what we want. We want it to disperse between the two. And then I'm just taking some deli paper because it was right there next to me to try and pull some of the color off because, of course, I put way too much color on and that's not working. So let's grab a paper towel here. And this, hello, look at that lovely patterning. That's awesome. I'm excited about that. So we're just going to dab off some of that color. And you can see how some of the color lays differently where those wrinkles are, and it's just awesome. And if you notice, I'm not concentrating it all down at the bottom, just mostly working on the top, which will eventually become the sky. The bottom is going to be covered up with some paper, so I'm not too worried about that. Now I'm going to grab some weathered wood, and I hadn't used it before, can you believe that? So I'm going to throw some of that on there and then use my fingers, it's my favorite tool, and just blend around. Make sure you get in the cracks. It's okay to have some of the white spots showing, but you want it to all look like it's blended well. Then we're going to dry it a little bit. After it's dry, I'm going to grab these dies from Lawn Fawn. They're kind of like for hills and landscapes and stuff. And I found this gorgeous sparkle holiday paper at Hobby Lobby, and it's like this kind of creamy color. And so I cut that out because I want it to be like snow-covered hills, or so that's what I want in my head. And now I'm just going to glue it down with some art glitter glue. It's a little bit long, but I'll just cut it off with an X-Acto blade. I'm not being real exact here, but I want to make sure that my hills sort of look like they match up on the other side of the page instead of being all wonky. I'm just trimming a little bit more on the center there, right at the crack, because when you fold the pages, if it's not just right, then you're going to have that paper fold up a little bit. And here's where it gets really wonky. I don't know how I cut that one so weird, but that's not going to work. So we're going to go ahead and glue this one down first, and then I'm going to have to futz and fix that other one. All right, so I recut that page, and then I cut it with the blade, thinking that I had the right length, and I didn't. So now it's going to have two separate pieces there, but we'll make it work. And see, you don't have to have perfection. It's art. Just pretend it's supposed to be that way and nobody else will know the difference. So once you have it glued down, this is where I am going to break out the scissors and cut off those edges so that way they'll match up. Alright, so now we got our little hills here, and I feel like they're kind of dull. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I'm going to break out this Carabelle stamp by Birgit Koopsen. I just love this one, and it's so funky, and it doesn't really look like it's going to match anything at all, but I'm going to grab some Archival ink, upside down there, in Cornflower blue, and I'm going to stamp that on there. So it kind of gives it a little bit more texture, sort of like it's rocks on the hill, and it looks really weird, but stay with me, and we're going to make it look good. I'm not caring where I'm stamping, I'm just stamping it all over the place, just kind of make sure everything has a little bit of a circle on it. Now I'm going to take this awesome half a tree stamp by Lavinia Stamps, and I don't have a big plate, but I'm going to use my cutting plate for my Cuttlebug, and it is going to work just awesome. So I have two different colors of Archival ink. One I think is a coffee. Again, I'll put everything down below. It's coffee and potting soil, and I'm going to use the two different ones there, and I'm going to line it up with kind of the edge of the page and stamp it. Now when you're stamping in a book, especially an art journal that already has a lot of pages in it, I probably should have put something heavy down behind it, because see, oops, I didn't get the best stamped image there. And I will try again, but guess what, people? Spoiler alert, it's still not going to work. But don't fret, it's all good. We're going to roll with it. But if you're doing this at home, put something heavy back behind there so you can get a better stamped image. Now, I really want to do that same tree, but I want the flipped version. So I'm going to break out this mirror image stamping tool from Unity Stamp. And it's just a plain stamp base. But what you do is you stamp your design onto the mirror image stamp base. So I'm going to ink it up there. And then we're going to stamp it over. This is only the second time that I've probably done this, so... Here we go. And see, we got a tree there. Now we're going to flip it over, line it up, and push it onto the page. Say a little prayer. Hail Mary, here we go. Fingers crossed. Bam. Hey, not too bad. It's a little bit light, and that's fine. It's going to be good. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take one of my Faber Castell big brush markers, and I'm just going to color it in a little bit. Now we have all of that matte medium and the paint and everything on there. So be careful you don't smudge the marker with your hand, because it's not going to dry instantly. But that's going to work in our favor, because I'm not a big fan of how dark it is right now. I'm going to take that paper towel and I'm going to soak up some of the ink just to kind of fade it out a little bit. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm not doing every single branch. I'm just doing some of the major ones and letting the other ones sort of float, kind of ghosted back behind there as if they're further away. And I'm going to do the same thing there by blotting some of that ink off. And now we got two wintry trees. Ta-da! Next, I'm going to use this awesome die cut from Tim Holtz, these super cute deer. And I found this great stamp pad at Hobby Lobby. It's like vintage Christmassy. Oh, I just love it. But it has this wonderful music note paper. And that's what I wanted to use. So I cut my deer out, and I did the same deer, but I did a mirror image. So I just flipped my paper over so that way I can have them both kind of looking up into the sky. And then it's just a matter of trying to figure out where I want them to fit on the page. And here's Aaron, playing around. Just commit, woman, just commit already. So once you have them where you want them, you're ready to glue them down. Oh, no, wait, not yet. For some reason, I decided I really needed to have some snowflakey stuff in the background. So I'm going to take my Copic Opaque White, throw it on a little glass lid from an old candle, add some water, which is dirty water, but it's okay, it'll still rock. And I'm going to take an old toothbrush, that was my daughter's, and I'm going to flick that stuff on there. Well, you can't really see it in the video. It is there, I promise, but it's not very vibrant. In hindsight, I totally could have skipped this step, but I just, at the time, felt like it was so necessary I had to do it before I put those deer on there. Boy, I'm determined, aren't I? Gotta get those dots on there. All right, so now we're back on schedule here. We're gonna get our deer glued down. We already have one, he's already glued up. We're gonna stick him down and then get the other ones down. Now, I wanted to try and make it look like they were standing in the snow, so I set him a little bit lower, and I'm gonna cut the tops of his feet off. And you'll see why later. It looks kind of weird now. But it'll work out, I promise. I was almost able to get this little guy back behind that second layer there, but he just wouldn't go. So we're gonna glue him down on top of it, and then we'll cut his little feet off as well. I would like to sort of push those dots that we stamped more into the background, but before I do that, I'm going to stick some matte medium over top of my deer. That's going to help stick them down better, and I'm also going to stick it down on the bottom of the ground there, so whatever we put over top of that glitter paper will be blendable, and it won't just sink right into that glitter paper. Once you've dried the matte medium, go ahead and grab some Distress inks. This one's Cracked Pistachio, and I'm just gonna kind of put that down around the bottom. Not over the whole thing, but just a couple little areas to bring some of the green color to it. I still wasn't feeling the color, so I grabbed Christmas Tree, one of my Happily We Go watercolors. It's this gorgeous, earthy, really pale kind of green, and I'm going to paint that on there. Now here's a big thing. Make sure you use clean water with your watercolors. I almost dipped into that dirty water over there, but it has acrylics and matte medium and whatever, and if you put that on top of your watercolors, they're not going to be happy. So I just took my spray bottle, sprayed over there on my glass tray, and I'm going to use that for my water. Super easy, paint it on there, but it's going to warm up that ground, and it's kind of a, you know, gives it a little brown feel. It's getting better with every layer. I'm getting excited, y'all. I'm getting excited. So that's what we're going to do here. We're just going to slap that color on. All right, so once that's dry, I'm going to break out the matte medium again, and I'm going to put that over the top. Now, I don't normally suggest putting matte medium over top of watercolors because they will reactivate and they're going to smudge. But because this is a ground and we don't care if it's smudgy in places, I'm just going to do that so the next layers I add to it won't reactivate that watercolor. Now, I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do next? What do I need to work with? We're going to work on that sky, and I'm going to take the Chip Sapphire Distress ink, and I'm going to blend out all around the sides. I'd like for the outside of the pages to be the darkest and then kind of come in lighter as they go towards the center. Next, I'm grabbing Seedless preserves, and I'm just going to go around the outsides just a hint and bring the colors forward. I like it because it's not too much of a purpley, but it has a purpley pink kind of color to it, and it does look like, you know, a nighttime sky, in my opinion. One of the big things about my art, I feel like, is I go where the layers lead me. So I finish a layer and then I'm kind of feeling like, where am I going to take this next? Well, I wanted to warm up the ground a little bit more and kind of accentuate that hill. So I'm grabbing another Faber-Castell big brush marker, and look how awesome that is blending out because of that matte medium. It's so wonderful. So I'm kind of, you know, dirtying up the ground a little bit, making it look more natural. All right, that's done. So I think I'm having a moment here, getting kind of excited, but I'm feeling like those deer, they need a little love. So it wouldn't be an Aaron layout if I didn't break out the pastels and start coloring in. There's just something about a smudgy chalk. I just love it. So I'm going to take one of those browns. I have no idea what the color names are. And then I'm going to choose one that's a little bit more kind of reddy. I tested it out on the side of my paper there. That's why it's always important to have some underpaper, so you can just try things out. And I'm going to blend it with my finger. And if you don't like how something's smudging, just take a rag, or in my case, a paper towel, and I think I'm licking it here. I don't suggest that, but just to wet it some and to blend it more. Now I'm taking that same Faber-Castell marker, I think it's the same one I used earlier, this might be actually the raw umber, and I'm going to outline again, and then they're going to smudge just as good. But I sort of felt like they were lost, like they didn't have like a well-defined outline, but I didn't want it to go dark like black, so I thought if I used the brown, it would kind of make them pop just a little bit more. So that's what I'm doing here. Then I thought, what if I take that white and then I kind of put it around and maybe it would lighten it up a little bit. You can kind of see it in person, but it doesn't really necessarily totally look like it on camera. But hey, you don't know if something's going to work unless you try it. Don't be afraid to try things. What's the worst that happens? You ruin it? There's no such thing as ruining in art. It's just an added layer, and you just keep layering and layering until you finally like what you see. So I felt like my deer were looking up into nothing. So I found the moon stamp that I have from Lavinia Stamps. And I have this awesome tissue paper, it's like gift wrap tissue paper with music notes on it. And I stamped my moon on that and cut it out. Then it was a matter of figuring out where I wanted it to be placed. Did I want the whole moon? Did I only want half of the moon to show? It was a dilemma, people. But then I figured I'd just put it right in the middle of the page. Now this is always a little bit difficult because you have that the crack. So when they fold over, sometimes they rip, whatever. But I thought symmetrically, I liked that it was right in the center, and it helped even out both pages. So I'm going to matte medium that down, put some on the bottom, and then over the top of that, and get it all dry. I'm also using my finger there that I took my X-Acto blade. Don't do it while it's wet because it sort of ripped the paper a little bit, but it's all good. It worked. And then dry it up. I'm breaking out the pastels again because after I got my moon laid down, I wasn't a big fan of the fact that the paper I put it on was an off-white color, and it didn't make my moon real white and vibrant like I wanted it to be. So instead of just having a big bright moon, I'm going to create some moonlight. So I grabbed some yellows, and I'm just going to blend those out until I'm happy with what I like. Here's a little trick I like to do when I'm making moonlight. If you drag your finger out and pull it down, you get like these little rays, and it's very faint, but you can kind of tell they're there, and I just like that. So there's a little tip for you. Now that I have that done, I figured if I don't get a bright moon, I'll darken up the sky so that way my moon pops a little bit more. So I took a purple pastel, and then I'm going to take this, oh gosh, my heart, I love this. It's almost like a Prussian blue. It is divine. It's so beautiful. And I'm just going to blend that all around the outsides again to bring that sky a little bit darker, make it more dramatic. Bring it into I'm going to bring it in a little bit too. And you see where all those little wrinkles are in the paper? They just take that pastel and they darken it, and it's just, I love it. It's lovely. Next, I'm breaking out something I haven't used since my scrapbooking days, liquid applique. This stuff is awesome. You just stick it down where you want it to, and this is how I'm going to create my snow effect. So I'm going to throw it down on the hills a little bit. I'm not being too particular with where I put it. You'll see later on in the video, I must come back a couple of times and add more to it, but... So then you take your heat gun, and I'm going to bring my book up here so you can see this because I just think it's magic. You heat it up, and it puffs. It's almost like a puffy paint, but it has this really great texture to it, and it makes awesome snow or like foam on coffees, anything fluffy. It's just awesome. And you can get it in different colors too, but I think I've only ever used the white because that's what I use it for. Snow, fluffy stuff, Santa's hat, you know, those kind of things. And then I like to push it down too so it's not sticking up, and then it gives it more of a flat look. So I couldn't just have snow on the ground. I wanted to have snow falling from the sky. So I'm just going to take that applique and do a couple of dots on the page. Now, if you haven't noticed by now, my art journal layout is absolutely nothing like Helen's was. And that's the beauty of the Inspiby challenge, is that you see the art and you can either recreate it yourself or just use it as inspiration when you're going forward and creating your own. And I used it as inspiration. I loved the snow scene. I loved the, you know, let's get into the Christmas spirit. And I thought deer and snowy, awesome, calm, woodsy feel. So that's what I went with. Now I'm going to take the Dylusions white linen spray, and I'm just going to flick the end of that with my finger and create a little bit more to add more snowflakes in the background in all different sizes. So another thing that I love, which if you don't already know about me, I love some sparkle and some shimmer. So I'm going to take the Silent Night Silver from Lindy's Stamp Gang and I'm going to spray it on there. And it's going to give a shimmer to my sky and to my scene. It's a gray color, but once I dab it off, you can't really see the gray of it, but you still get that shimmer on the page. And I'm feeling that. So it's sentiment time, and I went back and forth with how I wanted to do it and what I wanted to say, but in the end I decided to go with some stamps. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment on using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Now the thing with the VersaFine is that it's a juicy, inky pad, and you have to be careful because it doesn't dry right away and it's smudgeable. So, oops, I made a mess. But guess what? I'm just going to lick my finger and I'm going to smudge it off. And then I got into the R, and then I got into the B, so I just rubbed it all off. But once I restamp it, again, you won't even know what happens. I'm drying it there with my hand. We're going to go back over it, and we're just going to keep on trucking. Because it doesn't dry that fast, I thought, ooh, let's go ahead and emboss that. I always love the look of an embossed, glossy look. So I'm taking some clear embossing powder by Colorizer. It's really old, but that stuff lasts forever, y'all. So I'm going to put that on there and heat it up with my tool. And the important thing is make sure you have, you don't put the powder where you don't want it. See right there in the crack, there was a little bit of the ink. I don't want that there. I don't want it to be embossed, so I'm going to use my paintbrush and just brush off the powder. I'll probably go back and clean that up, but I'm not going to do it on camera now. So ta-da! The sentiment is done. Now to finish off, I'm going to grab my Distress crayon in black soot and do what I always do, and I'm going to black up the outside edges of the page. I don't know what it is about it. I just feel like a black outline gives it a finished look, gives the page a finished look. My husband calls it grunging. He says I'm just grunging everything out. I don't know if it necessarily looks grungy. I don't know, maybe it does, but I just like the way it looks. So that's how I'm going to finish up the edges. So at this point, I'm feeling like I might be done. Showing you the close-up, you can see a little bit of the shimmer in there. But then I decided I wasn't. I figured those deer, they're sitting there, there's some moonlight, they had to have creating a little shadow. So I'm taking a gray Faber-Castell big brush marker, and I'm just adding a little hint of shadow underneath where the deer are standing. And like I said earlier, I had to come back in. I just couldn't leave it. I just wanted to have a bit more snow on the hills on the page. I'm not being real particular with where it's going. I'm just squeezing and just running that little tube all over the page. And where it goes, it goes. And then I wanted some extra snowflakes, so I add a couple more of those in there too. And don't forget where you put it all so you can make sure you heat set it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me create this layout this week. I'm going to add a bit more snow here around their feet, and then that's going to finish up the page. Be sure to check out the blog, happilywego.com. We post the Inspiby prompts every Monday, and then you have until Sunday at midnight, whatever your time zone is, to post pictures of your layout to Instagram using the hashtag Inspiby tag. We would love to see your art. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it, and leave me a comment down below. I always love reading your guys' comments. It really makes my day. So I'm going to push down on that snow, flatten it out a little bit, and that's it, y'all. I hope you had a fabulous Sunday and you were able to get in a little bit of time creating as well. Here's some still pictures of my finished layout. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and have an awesome day.